Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're giving you our final pre-draft fantasy football wide receiver rankings. We'll show you how to win your league by winning your draft. Let's get this fantasy football podcast started right meow.
Hey everyone, I am Justin, that is Kyle, and this is the Fantasy Football Upside. Thanks for dropping by our Fantasy Football podcast and YouTube channel. We appreciate it. Dude, Kyle, I'm so freaking pumped right, man. Like, the season's almost here. We're less than a week away.
Oh, yeah.
So that means everybody's scurrying to figure out who they're supposed to draft.
Yep.
That's where we come into play, everybody. It's a football. So this week has been fun, man. Monday and Tuesday, we hit you with our final pre-draft rankings for running backs. And yesterday, we gave you the final pre-draft rankings for our wide receiver threes. So what's next? You have wide receiver twos today. We are going 24 to 13 in that order. Kyle, what you got before we get right into it, my friend?
Hey, guys, a lot of you are new around here, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hang out with us through the course of the season, guys. We're going to be putting up 5 episodes a week. We talk about waivers. We talk about matchup breakdowns and a few other things along the way. And we're also going to do a Sunday pregame show. So make sure you subscribe so that you know when the Sunday pregame show goes live, because we do that one live. And we're going to talk about fun things like the weather and people who got hurt and whether they're going to play. And we'll try to answer your questions and, help you make those final little tinkerings to your lineups so that, or talk you off the ledge, right? That I think is probably the last like 30 to 45 minutes before the games kick off on Sunday. You need to be talked off the ledge most of the time. So that's where we're going. But where we're going today is wide receiver 2 category, right? So let's dive in head first into the shallow end. Justin, wide receiver 24.
Wide receiver 24, Brandon Aiyuk. He's going 3rd pick in the 6th round. Wide receiver 23 off the board. Oh, that might be a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal that. Just like yesterday, I am a sucker for run after the catch wide receivers, and Aiyuk may be one of the best in the league. You get the ball in this guy's hands, he can do the rest. From weeks 4 to 16, Aiyuk was the 13th best wide receiver in points per game. I feel like that's lost in all the fantasy football world. Aiyuk did have the luxury of getting volume based off the fact that Debo and George Kittle were coming in and out of the lineup, both hurt at different times of the year last year. So when it comes to Brandon Aiyuk, though, he does have the potential for some boom or bust on a weekly basis, as he's not like a huge high target type wide receiver. Please keep an eye also on his practice participation next week, as he has missed the last few days with a minor hamstring tweak, I'm going to put that tweak. But all news out of 49ers camp is that he's going to be ready for week 1. It is something to just keep an eye on, because we are not big fans of the soft tissue injuries. Wide receivers, not as bad as running backs when it comes to some of those little minor tweaks here or there for what we noticed. But I'd be super thrilled to get Aiyuk as potential wide receiver 3. I mean, he's going off as a low end wide receiver 2, but if I could get him wide receiver 3 on my roster, I think the targets are going to be there, in my opinion, because he just needs to be right around the line of scrimmage. Like I said,
I mean, the issue is the quality of the target, right? It's the same issue that you get with Debo. Where you have to get the yak. You got to rely on that. So he's going to have high variance in his games, which you pointed out. So I think he has potential to be a really awesome play, though. I think he's going to be a superstar. So I like him a lot.
That might be some winning weeks right there.
The only thing I'm addicted to right now is winning.
Yeah. All right.
We haven't done that one in a while.
No, we have not done that one in a while. Wow. But you know what? We're going to be doing that, and so are you guys. We're going to be doing that all season long, right? Winning. All right, wide receiver.
Master segue here.
Yeah, wide receiver 23. We've got Cooper Kupp. ADP is 3rd pick, 5th round, 19th wide receiver off the board right now. He's being targeted as a wide receiver 2 with top 10 upside by a lot of people, I think, but I just don't see that upside. I think that he's going to be solid this year. I do like Stafford with him. I know Stafford's really great, but I think really only one of the main wide receivers in this offense is really going to be able to capitalize off of Stafford as much as we would like them to. And I think as a result of that, it's likely that it's going to be Bobby Trees and it's not going to be Cooper Kupp. So I actually think Cooper Kupp's going to be a back end wide receiver 2 at best. I wouldn't be surprised to see him fall to a wide receiver 3 territory ultimately by the end of the season. But his potential for elite games pushes him into the wide receiver 2 category for us, I think. We're calling Bobby Trees as the one to get the targets right now, or to go and get in the draft if you can. Cooper Kupp's not a terrible consolation prize as long as you're paying the right price, because Kupp's solid. He's been inconsistent over the last few years, which is a bit frustrating, but so was Robert Woods last year. He was a little bit inconsistent, which was like not him at all. Like, he's usually the picture of consistency. That's why I've had him on teams in the past. Was I like to get a home run hitter as my first wide receiver and then go get a really consistent wide receiver 2. And Robert Woods was that guy until last year. And that was just a touchdown regression that he had that was out of nowhere. So back on Cooper Kupp, though, truth is he's had only one season as a wide receiver 2 or better out of the 4 that he's played. So add in that he didn't see a dramatic drop in targets last year, but his yards per catch dropped 2 yards. That's rough, actually, for a wide receiver. It's a huge drop. He went from like 12 yards per catch down to 10 something. Over 12 to down over 10. The one benefit that I could see with grabbing him is the hope that he jumps back into the top 10. And I only see that if he gets here we go, positive regression, Justin. Positive regression.
Oh, right? There it is.
There it is. Progression, right? Progression. He only had 3 touchdowns last year, so he is due for a move back to the norm for him, to the middle for touchdowns, and that I think will bring him back into the discussion for that wide receiver 2 role potentially. So I think when you combine that with a few other things that are working in his favor, he should still be pretty solid. So I wouldn't pass on him. If he falls to wide receiver 3 territory for me, I'm not going to pass on him unless there's just somebody I'm wholly sold on. So I think if you get him in like Akers
around
out,
6 or 7,
if he falls into the top of 6, I'm starting to target him heavily. With Akers out, I think that they might rely on the passing game a whole lot more in the red zone more often, and so I think that benefits a guy like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Woods is a bigger target, I think, but Kupp's not anybody to really, ignore. He's a little bit bigger than people think. So,
Well, for sure. And it's also like those first couple of years that he was in the NFL, like he was catching a lot of touchdowns right around the red zone, like you just mentioned. And we keep talking about how, Robert Woods wasn't as consistent as he was previous years. Well, guess what, everybody? Matthew Stafford's in town and Jared Goff is shipped off. Yeah. So I think we're going to get a little more consistency out of those top 2 wide receivers for sure, man.
Yeah. All right, let's hit wide receiver 22.
We're a little down on this guy compared to some of the other people. It's Julio Jones.
That's probably me.
Yeah, for the most part, it is you. I think I actually had him around 15 or 16. So right now he's going wide receiver 14. So I faded him just a couple slots there. But nobody doubts that Julio is a once in a generation type wide receiver. But like I said yesterday when talking about Deebo Samuel, the best ability for Julio right now is availability. When on the field, the guy can give you back in wide receiver 1 number still to this day, in my opinion. But how many games will he play and how many is he going to play the entirety of the game is really what we need to look for. So that's why we pushed him down the board a little bit. We've said this many times, like last year, we talked about DeAndre Hopkins and we've mentioned other people before, but when you get that rock star wide receiver that moves to a new team, the first thing you want to do is push him up the board, push him up, let's get him top 10. But it actually takes a while, everybody. Rock star wide receivers, even though good, they got to get familiar with the new scheme. So, especially for a guy like Julio, he's going from the number 1 option in a pass heavy offense to the number 2 option in a run heavy offense. There's going to be some learning curve here, everybody. So it does help that targets have been vacated with the departures of Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. So it's not like he's coming into a place where he doesn't have as many targets available to him. So, but for me, draft Julio if you wish, but not at his current ADP of that 5th pick in the 4th round. That's just not where we like him. I would want him in the late 5 to 6 range, as that most likely means I have a couple wide running backs and a couple wide receivers, maybe. But if he's on your team, any game that he's active, start him.
Yeah.
Any game that he's active.
So part of why I have
a backup plan in place.
Yeah, definitely have a backup plan. Absolutely with him. And that ties into why I have him ranked a lot lower than a lot of people. And it's not just the numbers, the issue with all of that. There's a lot of runs in this offense, right? There's not as many pass opportunities. We broke that down in episodes earlier this summer, how he's damaged by this new offense that he's in. But you have to actually figure in the fact that when he's on the field and they call a run play, this is the same offense that the Packers run, guys, and the Rams run. What do the wide receivers have to do on a run play? They have to block a whole lot. Yeah. He's not used to that, and he's always been banged up, right? Yeah. Now he's in more opportunity to get banged up because he's getting into the scrum more. And so I could see him actually being more banged up than people anticipate much more often. Guys last year were missing time. This offense is classic for wide receivers missing time. Yeah. And people aren't paying attention to that. I'm giving it a more likely than not scenario where he misses at least 3 games, just because of the mere fact that he's going to be doing that stuff. I could see him going more, though. That's the thing, is I could see him going a lot more, and it's just going to be nicked up here and there kind of injury stuff. Yeah. So he starts a game, doesn't finish, that kind of stuff repeatedly, and that would really stink. You get him in your lineup and you get 2 quarters out of him, maybe. That's that's a huge blow.
He makes your 2 quarters.
Yeah. All right, wide receiver.
What you got at
21? We've got T. Higgins. He's going first pick, 7th round, 29th wide receiver off the board. We're a little higher on him. I think that's probably you more than it is me, actually, again. But I like T. Higgins still, so I'm probably not that far off of where we've got him. He's being discounted for one reason only, and that's Jamar Chase. That's really what it boils down to, why he is not being drafted where we think he should be going, which is high 6th round, or like the early 6th round, late 5th round, probably. Maybe
you actually have him ranked higher than I do, Kyle.
Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's a great wide receiver. I think he's perfect for what that offense wants to do. I think he and Joe Burrow have great rapport. I like Burrow a lot because he throws with anticipation repeatedly, and he throws his wide receivers and tight ends open down the middle of the field constantly. And this is where T loves to work. This is where they work him, is crossing routes, shallow routes, things up the seam that are going 12 yards down the field. And that's him. So Chase has been a drop machine. Like Jamar Chase has been a drop machine so far this preseason. I think he'll figure that out eventually, but it took Devontae Adams 3 seasons before he figured it out. So I don't want to let Chase scare me away from T. Higgins, and I'm not going to. The volume, I think, is going to be there for T no matter what. I think T has already proven his value to this offense. I think that the offensive line is a concern here, obviously, but I think that actually benefits Higgins a whole lot because Higgins works close to the line. That's where he works. So quick passes, quick slants, things down the seam, things that are designed to let offensive linemen get through to open up gaps behind them and the linebackers. This is where T. Higgins is going to be making the majority of his catches, I think. So those are routes that Jamar Chase has been showing that he has trouble with, actually. He's dropping the wide receiver screens. He's dropping the shallow crosser. He's dropping the curl route that's 7 yards out. He's making mistakes there. So at T. Higgins' current draft position, I think it allows you to take him as your wide receiver 3, but we look at him as a wide receiver 2, mid-level wide receiver 2, and you have a hope here that you get a solid second wide receiver 2 paying a wide receiver 3 price. That's just phenomenal. Absolutely. When you're building your team in the draft, this is the type of stuff you have to think about, is who are you able to take at a value? That's what a value really truly represents to you, is you're getting somebody who doubles down on a position that hopefully you've already managed. So
absolutely,
that's where I've got him.
I mean, my love for T. Higgins, and I like everything that you just said right there. He made our sleepers episode. It's just, we're looking at value, and this is one of the best ones out there for wide receiver when it comes to startable wide receivers. Yeah,
I think he's partly being discounted because he didn't have a whole year with Burrow, and so people don't really they don't see what he was doing because he didn't do enough of it. He was doing a lot
with Burrow after the first game.
Oh yeah. It was crazy. Like there was a race to the waiver wire in most leagues that are redraft leagues to go get him. So it was funny. All right, wide receiver 20.
We have DJ Moore, 7th pick in the 5th round, wide receiver 21 off the board. Moore's quietly put up back-to-back 1,100 plus yard seasons the last 2 years. So
that's it.
That's only. Well, one of the main reasons that it's been quiet is one, it's Carolina, but 2, it's the lack of touchdowns. I think DJ Moore is going to spend a lot more time in the slot this year with Sam Darnold. And Darnold has shown in the past with his time at the Jets that he can throw to slot wide receivers. So I think that's going to be a plus for him. If the touchdowns are to catch up to the league average and like everything else stays the same for Moore, like targets, catches, yards, then Moore has some serious wide receiver 1 upside, everybody. Nice. I mean, like I said, if you get to that kind of league average with the touchdown percentage, that's right there. Curtis Samuel's no longer in town, everybody. They did draft Terrace Marshall Jr. out of LSU. He's already flashed in the preseason, but he's also a rookie wide receiver. It may take some time. Who are they going to rely on? Well, they're going to rely on DJ Moore. We have seen an uptick in production. Robbie Anderson, he made our yesterday's episode. We like him. You throw Robbie on the outside. I think DJ Moore is going to feast in the middle. So draft him as a solid wide receiver 2 with some considerable upside. This is another pretty good value, in my opinion, right here for DJ Moore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is one of those great like wide receiver 2 type guys that operates out of the middle of the field, like classic Emmanuel Sanders, Jarvis Landry back in the day, Alan Hearns, these guys who are not necessarily going to kill it for you in any particular game, but they're a solid wide receiver too. And like I was mentioning before, if you go for that home run hitter because of where you're drafting or something, when you get your first one off the board, going in the 5th round and getting a wide receiver 2 that has the potential for an upside wide receiver 1, that's pretty solid, man. That's
not bad.
Not bad. It's not bad. All right, wide receiver 19, we've got Chris Godwin. He's going off the board, 8th pick of the 4th round, wide receiver 15 off the board. So we're a slight bit down on him. We'd probably push him into the 5th round. We think he's mid to back end wide receiver 2, but he's being drafted as a high end wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 potential. Question for me is why? His upside is capped by the disorganization of Bruce Arians' offense, right? He can't decide who's actually the guy that should be targeted regularly, and as a result, you get the most random dude putting up 3 touchdowns in a game, right? And it's not Chris Godwin. Arians has about 50 different guys set up to steal volume from the 2 best wide receivers on this team. That's very frustrating. It's not to mention that Evans and Godwin were both feast or famine the year that Godwin broke out, right? They were actually back and forth as to who was the guy that you should have or start, and it broke down to one was better against zone, and that's who they favored, and the other one was better against man, and that's who they favored that game. So you needed to know which defense you were going to be facing most of the time in any given week to be able to go, yeah, I should start Godwin, or no, I should sit Godwin. So that's frustrating. We're betting that over the course of the season, Godwin still produces a wide receiver 2 season, but he's going to be so inconsistent that you're going to be surprised to see it at the end of the year if you have him, that, oh, he did finish as a wide receiver 2. Huh, interesting. It's going to be one of those types of deals. Yep. So I'm actually avoiding him because I don't want that consistency on my team. And I think you got to pay up a little bit to get that kind of player. It's interesting to me. There are a bunch of guys that are like this, where people just overpay for those guys who they make their whole season on 3 or 4 games, right? And it's like, well, which 3 or 4 should you start him in? Because the rest of the time he's wide receiver 70 or worse. Like those are those guys. Now he's not as severe as some of the guys, so I'm not as down on him. But he who shall not be named is also a wide receiver on this team. And Mike Evans is there too. Then you've got Rob Gronkowski, and
you got Scotty Miller being a guy. You got OJ Howard. You got Cameron Brate.
I mean, how many coaches' sons are on this team, right? So yeah, there's a lot of that. So it's frustrating. Yeah, a lot of high motor guys. Real student of the game. Gym rats, right? All right, here we go.
A second coach out there.
Yep. It's just loves to get in there and scrap it up. All right, here we go. Wide receiver 18. What you got?
Here's my lunch pail. All right, we have number 18, DeAndre Johnson, 12th pick in the 5th round, wide receiver 22 off the board. Talk about DeAndre Johnson. His game is a crazy high target volume. He had 144 in 15 games last year, and nothing says that rate's going to change this year. I mean, even when he struggled with the dropsies last year, Big Ben still looked his way constantly. So it's one of those things where I don't see that's going to change at all. Deontay is a stud at getting open, especially around the line of scrimmage, which is needed because, Big Ben's arms turned into the old noodle arm right now. It's crazy to think as well that this is only Deontay's 3rd year in the pros. I feel like he's been around forever because ever since he got in, it's like he became Big Ben's favorite target. You know, his ADP right now, Kyle, 12th pick in the 5th round. I think that's pretty criminal. I'm cool with drafting him towards the back of the 4th or, you know, back of the 4th, early 5th. And he's going to be a really good wide receiver too, with some great upside. And once again, it's 144 targets in 15 games.
We liked him a lot last year. Yeah,
we did. And if he figures out the dropsies a little bit more, I mean, that's tough to beat, especially in a PPR.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really tough when you're close to the line a lot, you know, and you're getting a lot of balls.
A lot of traffic.
Yeah, there's a lot of traffic. So, you know, but that's been the hallmark the last 2 years. But if he figures it out, he's going to be absolutely just stellar. So, yeah. All right. Wide receiver 17 for us is Keenan Allen. Speaking of inconsistent, like I was mentioning before on Godwin, right? 5th pick, 3rd round on average, and 9th wide receiver off the board. So as you can tell, we are way down on Keenan Allen. Allen is someone who people draft because they only look at end of season totals and they don't really understand the difference between best ball and standard weekly fantasy football stuff. And so they think, oh, he's a wide receiver 1. Clear as day, he's a wide receiver 1. But then you look on a week by week basis and you realize this guy, he has 3 viable weeks, and then the rest of the time he's not startable. That's really terrible. And not only that, but his volume is going to go down this year. We have to imagine that it's going to. He can't maintain the numbers that he had in targets last year. It's just infeasible. We've discounted Keenan Allen because his inconsistency for us is just too much to deal with. He got the majority of his targets and points last year in about 3 to 4 games. Now that there's a different coach in town, I don't know what's going to happen here exactly, right? So why is everybody assuming that the target volume will remain the same as last year and drafting him at his ceiling, essentially? That's my problem with it, right? So I'm not going to pay the ADP that it's going to take for Allen. And if you do, you're going to be disappointed, I really do believe. And that's regretful. I mean, it's going to be regretful because I think Allen is a good receiver. I think that if he's being drafted at the appropriate price, yeah, sure, great. But I wouldn't pay 3rd round for him. I would probably pay like back of the 5th, early 6th. Maybe I'd like to see him fall to the 7th. But his inconsistency is not good. We talked about this before last year, where half his games were wide receiver 48 or worse, and from the year before, and it wasn't really actually any better than that last year. He was a little bit more consistent, but that was just because the volume was so much greater last year. But they're not going to target him 29 times in a game this year, guys. That's just not going to happen. Eckler is healthy, so they're not going to need to do that, you know?
Right. Is that a necessity?
Yeah, I mean, when Eckler was gone, they targeted Allen unbelievably, right? Just in an immense amount. So if you can anticipate when Eckler's not going to be available, because running backs generally, there's a time where they become unavailable, then go ahead. Get Keenan Allen and start him in those weeks. But other than that, no, I don't think so. Not for me. You got anything to add?
No, I think you pretty much hit all of it right there, my friend.
Yeah. All right, wide receiver 16.
All right. This is another guy that's a little inconsistent, but we still like him as well. It's Tyler Lockett. He's going 6th pick in the 5th round, wide receiver 20 off the board. Tyler has finished no worse than wide receiver 15 in the last 3 years. That's incredible. We think he continues that pace and finishes as a top 16 wide receiver based off our ranking right here. You do have him a lot higher than I do.
Yeah,
but
I like this offense this year.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is this the year they finally allow Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson, to ball out for all 4 quarters instead of waiting till the 4th quarter and they say, oh, okay, Russ, go win us the game, pal. Like they have the last, I don't know, since he's been in the league. Kind of like the Keenan Allen, he does bring a good amount of boom or bust to his game. But for Tyler, I think his boom is one of those ones where it's going to be, a week winning type performance. Let's not forget that Tyler now has 28 touchdowns the last 3 seasons. Even at his size, Russ trusts him in the red zone. You cannot overlook that. I would draft him as his current ADP of the wide receiver 20 in the 5th round or towards the end of the 5th, early 6th. That would be great. I'm not as bullish on my ranking of Tyler Lockett just because of the the bust potential here or there. But like you said, I like this offense a lot more this year if they actually, hold true in what they say.
Yeah, it's the
and
word.
Pete Carroll doesn't Pete Carroll it and just, run, and then throw it on the goal line.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really going tight end heavy. You can see it already. To the same extent that they have in the years past. And so to me, it screams that they are going to go, like they are saying, more passing routes, more opportunities. And so I think that Tyler Lockett benefits from that because he does have that trust with Russell Wilson. And you're absolutely correct that he's not a huge guy, but in the end zone, he plays huge and Russ trusts him that way.
Freaking man.
I mean, the contested catch ratio in the red zone, I'm sure for him is crazy. Like how much he takes down.
He's sub 6 foot tall.
Yeah, but he's strong. Fights for the ball.
He's mighty.
Yeah, mini. All right, here we go. Wide receiver 15, we've got as Amari Cooper. He's going 10th pick, 4th round, 18th wide receiver off the board. So we're slightly higher. We've got, I think our wide receiver 2s are flipped of what most people have as wide receiver 2s. Is Mike McCarthy offense, right? So nothing about a Mike McCarthy offense says anything except for being skewed to the pass, right? There's just heavily going into the passing game. He is more than happy to call 40 passing plays in a game and throw that thumbs up and that wonky eye to the left and call it a day, right? So
hey, I'm over here, pal.
Cooper is competing with Lamb for primacy in the passing game this year, most likely. But there is also Gallup there. He's going to have some say-so. But I think that Cooper's still the guy this year, most likely. He's worked with Dak before. He's a very talented guy. I like him a ton. I think that he's been phenomenal. Like he got talked down when he was in the Raiders back when they were still in Oakland and before they traded him to Dallas. And people just were down on him since then. The knock on him was he just wasn't going to try. He would quit on routes, all that stuff that has just not borne out since he's been in Dallas, right? I mean, he's not in a bad offense anymore. So I think that this offense is capable of maintaining 2 wide receiver 1s or a wide receiver 1 and a wide receiver 2. Mm-hmm. And if you draft Cooper that way, you're getting either the value of on your cost, you're getting even value at a wide receiver 2, or you find a guy that has extra value for you because he ends up as a wide receiver 1. Mm-hmm. And you paid the wide receiver 2 price for him. So that's why we've got him kind of where we do. He's a hybrid at that point. He's got upside as a wide receiver 1 potentially.
Absolutely. No, you hit everything. I mean, the guy is a $20 million wide receiver for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, who doesn't want to get out of Oakland and potentially go to the most profitable franchise in the NFL or most, valued the most?
Yeah.
So, I like Amari Cooper. And, you're getting a little bit of a bargain based off this ADP compared to his teammate CD, I think.
Yeah. I mean, what's changed for the worse for him from last year? That's what I don't get. Like, he's got a healthy Dak Prescott. And somehow he's supposed to finish worse than he finished last year based on ADP.
Yeah.
Is CeeDee Lamb going to, they only have enough targets for 1 wide receiver in this offense?
So they're going to have plenty of targets.
Yeah, they are. All right. Wide receiver 14.
14, Adam Thielen, ADP, 9th pick in the 4th round. Wide receiver 17 off the board. I am hooked on a Thielen for at least 1 more year, Kyle. Just 1 more run, buddy. Holy TDs for Adam last year. He had 14 to be exact. He had an eye-popping 18.9% of his catches went for touchdowns. An incredible amounts. He is bound to regress in the touchdown department this year as he takes, I think, even more of a backseat to Justin Jefferson, who is the clear-cut number 1 in this offense. However, that connection between Cousins and Thielen in the red zone, that cannot be denied. I mean, it wasn't that Justin Jefferson wasn't on the field at the same time. It's that Cousins really looked at Thielen in the red zone. The only other person, in my opinion, besides the Justin Jefferson, when it comes to targets, is Dalvin Cook is the only other real threat for targets in this offense. As Irv Smith Jr., he's going to be out for the majority of the year. Yeah, they brought in Chris Herndon. It's going to take him a little while. Kyle Rudolph is no longer there as well. They had another tight end that, they keep talking up. Mike Zimmer keeps talking up, but I don't think he's really going to make any kind of fantasy impact. They're going to have to throw people. So I still think he's going to get triple digits in the target department, which he did drop down, but he still had, I think, 108 targets last year. So I would be okay with drafting Thielen as my wide receiver 2, but I would be absolutely thrilled if for some reason he kept dropping as a low end wide receiver 2 I would love that. Or even as a wide receiver 3, I would be amazed by that. I mean, we're a little higher on him as wide receiver 14 compared to the ADP of wide receiver 17.
Yeah, I think I've got him a little bit closer to ADP or normal average ADP, which is average, right? ADP is average. Yeah. All right.
Average draft position.
Average draft position. I think that Cousins, you're going to see him take, a jab or two for Thielen in the end zone here and there.
Always.
Yeah. If you get my meaning.
That's
my concern with this passing game is that there may be some availability issues.
Maybe one last jab.
Maybe,
Yeah. What a shock.
All right, here we go. Wide receiver 13 for us is CeeDee Lamb. Just got done talking about Amari Cooper. We got CeeDee Lamb right there with him. And so he's going right now, first pick, 4th round, 12th wide receiver off the board. He's being drafted as though he is a wide receiver 1 of this offense, but I don't really think that he will lock that down so convincingly if he does at all, actually. So it's going to be very close between these two guys, actually. We like him this year for a second-year breakout, but we also think that the ADP you'll pay to get him is probably his ceiling price, and that's a bit concerning here. So I would like to see him come down the board a couple, like a round maybe. Lamb will likely be less consistent than Cooper in this offense, and that has less to do with him than it does with Mike McCarthy, right? McCarthy prefers to make guys wait a long time to develop all of their potential before he decides, let's use them.
Jesus.
And as I said with Cooper, this offense can support 2 wide receiver 1s or a wide receiver 1 and a wide receiver 2. I'm just not convinced that paying a wide receiver 1 price on either guy is actually worth it, because both of these guys, there's the possibility that they both don't get there, that they both end up as wide receiver 2s. So the cost for Lamb versus the cost for Cooper is really the reason that we're ranking him the way that we are. We like Lamb slightly better just because the cost is slightly less, maybe. I don't, it's a tough one to predict what's going to happen. And I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with, is figuring out what's going to happen here. I still think it's going to be Amari Cooper's year.
I really don't think you could go wrong with either one.
Yeah.
When it comes to as a wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
Yes, CeeDee Lamb right now, his average draft position is going as a low end wide receiver 1. Let somebody else make that decision on drafting him as wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
And then guess what? That most likely means Amari Cooper is going to be available to you a round and a half later.
Yep.
And you're able to get basically the same value, because I think they're going to finish neck and neck.
Yeah.
Low end wide receiver 1 numbers for the both of them.
Yeah.
By the end of the year.
And that's the reason for me. I favor Cooper over Lamb
just based off the little bit of value. Yeah,
just based off that value trade. I mean, I look at it like you have wide receiver 2 with potential wide receiver 1 upside, and you're getting him in the 4th round. That could be your second wide receiver that you're grabbing. You're getting a wide receiver 2 at least out of that in my mind, and you have potentially gotten 2 wide receiver 1s onto your team. And he is quite capable of taking over in any particular week for you. So I think that's phenomenal value, and I would jump at the opportunity. And that's why I would target him over Lamb. That's just my personal opinion on it. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for our wide receiver 2s for the final run through before the season starts. Getting so close, can almost taste some fantasy football kicking off, right? All right, guys. So make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the like button while you're down there, and check out some of our other episodes, get some other rankings. There it is. We're talking about wide receivers, right? Speaking of wide receivers, we've got the 0RB shirt. Check it out. It's over on the website.
Of these guys, man.
Well, yeah. So head over to the website. You can find that shirt. We've got a couple other shirts there as well. That one's pretty nifty. It's kind of fun, different colors and stuff. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.